Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Families in Recovery from SVG and the Hazelden Betty Ford Foundation. My name is Ken Kirschbaumer, and today's topic is Athletes Are People Too. Our guests are Carrie Bates and Jerry Moe. Carrie is a three-time Olympic gold medalist and an alum of Hazelden Betty Ford. She's also HBF's Senior Outreach Manager. Jerry was Executive Director of Hazelden Betty Ford's National Children's Programs for 23 years. He has also been an advisor to Sesame Street on its Parental Addiction Initiative. Hi, Carrie and Jerry. So great to see you both. Today, we're going to discuss athletes and their struggles that have become very public, obviously with Naomi Osaka and Simone Biles and most recently Lindsey Vonn, all discussing their battles with mental health issues related to their performance, their career drop-off. And Carrie, I wanted to start with you because, our audience historically for these events has been people who cover sports and the athletes. But you yourself obviously were an elite athlete, a three-time Olympic champion. Gold medalist. So can you walk through your experiences as far as mental health issues of the end of your career, and then also what everyone else, the lay person, should understand when they look at their high school athletes, their relatives, and maybe college students? Everybody, whether you're an elite athlete or an amateur athlete, you all struggle with this issue at some point, right?
Well, sure, because I think that that goes back to the point where that we talked about before, that athletes first and foremost are people, right? And we're several profile athletes and profile personalities, if you will, are put up on pedestals by the public, that we don't suffer from the same life challenges that non-profile people suffer from. And that just can't be further from the truth. As a matter of fact, I would argue that being in the spotlight and living in that fishbowl of and constantly being expected to and putting that own expectation on ourselves to be perfect only enhances and makes us more susceptible and more vulnerable to the challenges of depression and or substance use disorder.
So for yourself, did you know you were struggling? Did you have an awareness, or did you just think this is what you're supposed to do because you're getting older, there's younger kids coming up? What are the signs, I guess?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I grew up in an alcoholic home. So I not only have the genetic predisposition, but I also have that double whammy where I suffered from that hole in my soul that I didn't know how to fill. And so while I was swimming and winning and racing and training endless hours, that filled that giant hole that was in my soul. And when the lights went off, and the racing stopped and the winning stopped and the celebrations and the accolades stopped, I was left being very lost and very confused with who I was outside of that pool deck. I always knew I was accepted, loved, and successful within the confines of the pool deck, if you will. And then when those things ended and the new darlings of the sport were coming up, I was left not only feeling lost, but not knowing how to fill that hole that probably always existed because of my genetic predisposition. I didn't know how to fill it. And that's when, not being able to put those words to those things, I started filling those spaces with alcohol.
So Jerry, I'm sure you've seen this and heard this from numerous people who you've dealt with treatment, correct?
Oh, all the time. And to piggyback on what Carrie said, for an athlete, I think sometimes some of their greatest strengths can be their biggest liabilities when it comes to healing and recovery. I mean, athletes have taught me being mentally tough, persevering, finding that perfect performance. And yet when they get to treatment, those very things can get in the way. Oh, gosh, athletes, as Carrie said, they're people. And so many times in treatment, and not just for athletes, but also other high profile folks, telling them, you're not here to sign autographs. You're not here to entertain. You're not here to perform. Focus on healing. Be real, be vulnerable, and be you. And as scary and confusing as that might be you. Carrie, what do you think about that?
I couldn't agree more. I smiled because you just described my treatment experiences perfectly. I went to residential treatment more than once because what I found is the very things that made me an Olympic champion were the very things that nearly killed me in my addiction. And those are things like work harder, don't ask for help. You can surely figure this out. If you can be the best in the world at something, you can certainly figure out what this little problem you seem to have with alcohol. And that need to not let people know is only increases that isolation and that withdrawal even more from people that are there to help. So by the time I got to the Betty Ford Center nearly 10 years ago, I had no idea who or what I was anymore. I remember one of my counselors asking me, do you know what makes you happy? And I literally could not answer that question because words had been used, as we saw in the Summer Olympics with Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, and that we're seeing now in Beijing. Words are being used like quitter, loser, not mentally tough enough to represent their team and country. I mean, these are heavy, heavy weighted words that really chip away at the soul and the very belief in who we are as people. And those are the same words that were used towards me as an alcoholic. So by the time I got to treatment, I not only couldn't connect with the world champion that I was as an athlete, but I couldn't even relate to that, to the woman that I was as a mother any longer, because I had been so beaten by this disease. And Jerry, I know you're seeing that all the time on the Betty Ford campus.
Carrie, I think about the gentleman in treatment, pinnacle of his sports career, multiple times All-Pro. I met with him because he was estranged from his wife and his little kids. And for some reason, we just connected, it clicked. And in thinking about it, I think the reason we clicked, like you, he also grew up in a family with alcoholism, and he had that little kid inside that had never been healed. The second time we met, he got really vulnerable, and he looked at me and said, in the blink of an eye, my life completely changed. So severe knee injury, lost a multi-million-dollar contract, disconnected from his wife and from his kids. And he's lost the sport that he has played and loved since he was 5 years old. Talk about things to grieve. He sobbed. He just sobbed. And finally, he looked up at me and said, I am lost. No one is clapping for me anymore. What do I do now? There it is, right there, Carrie.
Yeah, I resonate with that deeply. But you know, what I love to talk about is the hope of recovery and the gift of treatment. I'm a firm believer that treatment works. You know, when it wasn't a one and done thing for me. It took me more than one time. But it took me to go through that to get to where I am. And I look back now as a world champion athlete, a mother of two amazing kids. And I can tell you that my single greatest accomplishment is my recovery. And the thing I'm most proud of in my life is my recovery. And it is possible. There are so many resources at our fingertips, and recovery is happening. You know, the lie that we don't recover is dead. But what is alive and well is the fact that we do recover, and we go on to have these amazing lives that when we're in active addiction, we can't even begin to pretend to understand. I can tell you that if the Betty Ford Center had told me to write a script of what my life would look like 10 years into recovery, I would have sold myself short, because I never knew how great my life could be as a sober woman. And that is the true gift of recovery, is and the true gift of treatment.
And so, Carrie, what you did is you got real, you got vulnerable, you worked so incredibly hard to find you and for your whole family to heal. You know, athletes strive for perfection, but sports production professionals, they strive for that too, and they deliver. Addiction is an equal opportunity disease, and mental health issues can touch anyone. If you are concerned about yourself or someone that you love, please contact us at Hazelden Betty Ford. We are just a quick step away. Help, hope, and healing for the whole family.
Beautiful. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Carrie, so much. Be well and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.